Hi everyone, good evening. Hey, hope y'all are doing well. I wanted to give a special encouragement to the folks who kind of in the worst of the worst, where there's the anxiety and the big freak out, where so much is up in the air. If it's with lawyers and all this and that, and what's going to happen with the kids and the money and everything. And I just want to say that I'm praying for your situation, even though I don't know you and I don't know the details. I just hope that you can find God, the peace of God in the midst of all that. That you'll know that He's going to take care of you. Um, I know it is really scary. I guess the other part would just be to validate it's a hugely awful, um, difficult, hard, kind of soul crushing thing to go through. But my encouragement would be to try to find people that you know and trust that can help you, and ultimately that there's hope. I've heard a lot of messy stories where over time, the healing comes, that God takes care of His children, and that's kind of just my encouragement for today. I want to do a video going off from there about just trying to essentially give folks a heads up for these kind of comments that you're going to get if you decide to stand for your marriage that may kind of throw you for a loop, things that people are going to say that, well, I thought it would be worth just telling a story of something that happened to me today in an attempt to try to illustrate just how you gotta just be ready. You're never gonna know these things that people are gonna say, where they're gonna try to give advice or these insights that are probably not going to be all that helpful to you, and what you can do about it. So here's my story. I have a friend of mine who pastors a church. We went out for lunch today, and it was good. I was telling him about the channel, how excited I was, some of the things that I just get excited about, seeing marriages work out, seeing people overcome the difficulties in their lives, etc., etc. I talk about all these things on the channel, and so we got talking, and he doesn't really know I haven't known him for that long, so he doesn't know really any details about my situation, other than I'm just standing for my wife and I believe in marriage, and that's it. And so he said two things that really threw me, and well, I wanted to bring them up because here's the thing. I think that people basically don't dig up like all the verses and sort through all this stuff on divorce unless they're forced to. Because let's be honest, it's not really a fun topic. I've never been invited. I'm guessing probably not a lot of folks have been invited or accepted an invitation where it's like, hey, come over to the house. We'll have some chili. We're gonna do a Bible study. You're welcome to come. Bring a drink or dessert, and we're gonna be looking at all the ins and outs of divorce. I mean, that doesn't happen. People, why would you do that? That doesn't happen. And so what you often end up having is a lot of folks that they've kind of like pieced together these ideas, these thoughts on divorce, either from media or movies or things that people say or this thing that they heard one time, and they don't really have well constructed views. And these could be even like really thoughtful people that have done a lot of work, but just because they've never been through the situation, they kind of haven't had like their ideas tested in that sense. And uh, so we're going along, and I'll tell you, this guy, he says two things to me that really throw me off. One, he says that I think his father was his pastor, so he says that as far as he is concerned and his dad is concerned, that a man who has previously been divorced could never be a pastor in his view. That he could never really accept that person in a pastoral role as a leader. And it really struck me because, well, I try to talk about these things, but if you really think about what that means, how do folks like that generally think about divorced people in general, right? They're somehow, I don't know, like not competent, not able to use the gifts that they have, because, and I don't really know what his reasons were. Besides that, I did ask him to clarify, and made sure that I understood him right, that that there's no circumstances in his view in which a man could get divorced and then pastor a church. And he didn't give me any verses. He didn't really have anything very solid to say. He just said in general, his views were that in general the New Testament tended to not go in that direction. I mean, that's a pretty weak answer. I think we could all agree with that. And not saying anything about the guy that he's not smart or well read, but I just think it was really interesting that he didn't have a very well prepared answer. That he'd never been divorced, and I think it just illustrates that he never really thought through much about where his opinions came from and how he landed on those things and how he kind of supports those opinions. So that was one thing that I thought was really interesting. And I've mentioned before, one of the hopes that I hope to see from changes in the future is that folks that have been through divorce, that they wouldn't get some kind of blanket, demerit or treated badly, treated as second-class Christians, or treated as if they're defunct or defective or dirty or whatever word you want to use. This is one thing that you are going to run into, and I'm telling you it's going to be tough. And I just want to share the story because it's something to think through, so that when you kind of run into these things, you can start to develop some responses, and also like a long-term game plan. Do you want to be around those types of people? Is that type of church going to be a good fit for you? A place where you're going to feel loved, accepted, where you don't have to go around explaining yourself or defending your situation. I just don't think that that's a good environment that people would probably want to put themselves in. Something to think about, something I'm thinking about, But what was the other thing he said to me? He said, and this was the other thing. Like I said, he didn't know. I haven't known this guy for a long time, so I haven't shared with him any of the details about my situation. But at one point he said, Brian, I'm like really divided. He said that in one sense his thoughts kind of led him in one direction as far as what I should do. And I wasn't really asking for his opinion about what I should do. I feel pretty confident about what I should do. But he said that his emotions kind of led him in a different direction, and then he felt confused. And, well, this is interesting, to me in a couple levels. One, you kind of get this volunteer opinions from people about what you should do in your situation when you're not really asking for them. And then the other thing is, people just send you like these weird messages, and sometimes you walk away and you're kind of feeling like, well, what's going on? And I think just for me tonight, I came home, and this is kind of my advice. I don't know. I think it's worth thinking about that in these times that people tend to complicate things so much, these very difficult things. And if you're getting like really stuck on some very complicated thing, sometimes it's nice just to go back to the basics. For me, I was kind of going through my evening, and I just realized, I felt like this verse came to my mind. God spoke it to me or whatever, but it just came to my mind. I was probably thinking about this whole situation, and it was just, that verse that says, "What God has brought together, let no one separate." And so to me, that really meant, if God has brought together your marriage, and you still believe like He's not done working in it, then don't jump on board with the team that's destroying it and kind of tearing it down. No, stay on the team that's believing in it and acting like it's going to get restored and that the game's not over. That's kind of just my general take, that if you know kind of the basis of how you think through these things, and you have some solid verses and some good logic, then when you get these kind of weird comments that'll come in from kind of nowhere from people that you don't expect, and maybe when you weren't even asking their advice, it won't be such a big deal. It won't throw you off so much. Obviously, like, it takes time to get used to all that stuff, and you never really know what folks will say. But that's kind of my general take on that. I'm going to try to do a video in the future about how to really handle church leadership that supports unbiblical divorces and what you can do in those situations. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.